Thinking about buying a franchise? Don't go it alone. Just like a buyer's agent in real estate, you deserve someone who's on your side every step of the way. That's where Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, comes in. Todd's consulting services are completely free to anyone looking to buy a franchise. He'll represent your interest, make sure all your questions are answered, and walk you through the entire buying process. With Todd in your corner, you'll have the best chance for success from your first call to the day you hold the keys to your new business. So before you buy a franchise, talk to someone who knows the industry inside and out and works for you. Call Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, today at 423-381-0925 for a free, no-pressure consultation. That's 423-381-0925. Your future in franchising starts here. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net. Today we are blessed to have Mr. Chevis Davis on the podcast with us, and he has got a fantastic franchise called Paint with Faith. And this is about my 39th podcast that I've done for the FMS Client Spotlight series. And being a Christian entrepreneur and a franchisor myself, a preacher of the gospel, it's always a blessing to me. I enjoy them all, but I enjoy them more when the franchisor we're interviewing is also a devout Christian. Chevis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, sir. So Chevis is an artist by the gift of God and many years of experience. And you can't see him if you're listening to the audio portion of this, but he's got this really cool painting behind him. And I said, did you do that painting? It's hanging on the wall behind you. He said, no. He said, that's at the church where I'm at right now. And I said, oh, okay, cool. So my name is Todd Abraham. You're tuning in, like I said, to the FMS Client Spotlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net. So Chevis, just tell us a little bit about your background. I know you and I talked about it on the phone, but for the listeners' sake, give us the really cool story behind how you started the whole Paint with Faith business.
Absolutely. So I discovered my gift of art at 6 years old, and I've been doing it ever since. My art teacher told my parents when I was at a regular art school that I had a talent, I had a gift, so they moved me from the regular school I was at to a specialized art school, and I've been doing art ever since that day. So after I graduated college, I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I had a degree in computer art and animation. But what happened was, as soon as I graduated, they moved from 2D animation to 3D animation. And if you don't know what that is, 2D animation is Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, and Hanna-Barbera cartoons, whereas 3D animation is Toy Story and computer-generated things. So many studios was closing up the 2D and going into 3D animation, so I had no jobs available. So when I came back to Miami from Savannah, Georgia, I ended up I became an entrepreneur. I started making T-shirts and selling T-shirts every single week. And then my mom said, get a real job. So I ended up becoming a teacher, and working as a video photographer. Yeah. She said, get some benefits and get a real job. Yeah. So I ended up working with a gentleman who became my mentor, and he did video and photography for weddings and special events. So he trained me to do that. And I told him, hey, I said, John, I want to be able to do this on my own. He said, that's fine. Just make sure you stay away from my clients. And so I did video and photography for about 8 years. And then one particular day, Todd, I did a wedding, and I came home. I was super tired. I took my sons in the house. They were little at the time, maybe about 1 or 2, 3 or 4. And went in the house and came back that morning, early Sunday morning, to take the equipment out of the car, and all the equipment was gone.
Oh, no.
So all my video cameras, photo cameras, lights, flashes, zoom lenses, all of it was gone. And so I broke down.
Quick question about what was the dollar value roughly of all that equipment that you got stolen from you?
It was about $6,000 worth of equipment.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Heavy hit, knocked me out. That's the first time I understood what lament means. So I went in the house, I fell to my knees and I started screaming. My wife ran into the room and she was like, "What's the matter? What's going on?" I said, "All my stuff is gone. All my equipment is gone." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Someone broke in the car and took all the equipment. They must have seen me packing it last night or something, but everything's gone." And so those couple of weeks I was looking for equipment, pawn shops, Facebook Marketplace, just looking for it, seeing if something popped up. And eventually I gave it to God. I said, "God, how am I going to be an entrepreneur without any tools? I don't have any cameras. I don't have no things. How am I going to become an entrepreneur?" And he asked me a question. He said, "Hey, are you an artist?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can you motivate people?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Are you a teacher?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, use what I gave you. All you need is all you have." And that's how Paint with Faith actually was born.
And
I
what year
went
was
and
that?
did, that was 2014.
Yeah, yeah, because you and I talked about how on the phone, how in every situation, God always asks, "What do you got in your hand?" And with Moses, it was the staff, and
Right,
with Elijah and the widow woman, she just had enough to prepare for, they were going to prepare that last meal and die.
right.
And
Hmm.
so that is a truly awesome God faith story. So very cool.
Absolutely. It was devastating at the time, but it's a gift born out of adversity.
Yep. Well, and honestly, that is the way that I just turned 57. In my experience, people that find their place I'm talking about Christians now, find their place where the Lord wants them. It seems to always come in the most bizarre circumstances. Even Chris Connor with FMS, I mean, like he said, he wasn't planning on starting a business. He was planning on, he did it out of a need. He said, "Man, I
Mm,
got a family, 2 children to raise. I've got, parents and brothers that depend on me." And I said, "Yeah," I said, "but," because he lost his job, the company he was with. And he was like, I said, "Yeah." I said, "But man, look at, what God did with what you started." I mean, it's just phenomenal what God has blessed Chris to do with franchise marketing systems. So you said 2014. So now you have been in business. You weathered the COVID storm, all
yeah.
of those different things. What's been some of the biggest challenges you face with Paint with Faith?
The biggest challenge is keeping staff. There's always been a challenge because, of course, I have a specialized staff. They
Right.
have to be artists and they have to be able to present how we do our classes. Now, we're just not a normal painting company. We do
Right.
presentations. So we do motivational speaking as well as teaching you art. So it's a specialized group of people, and sometimes artists don't know how to stick to the program, to say the least.
Right.
They're free minded. They want to be able to do what
Yep.
they want to do, and so some of those people can't work with us when it comes to the business standpoint of making sure that they stay in line. So just to give you an example, the way our classes are set up, we call it the Paint with Faith sandwich, where you have to do the intro, the Paint with Faith way. You could do the middle part where you can be creative and explaining and motivating, but then the bottom piece also is another part of the sandwich. And so some people cannot stay with the model that we have, and so they don't last very long.
Right. So how many instructors do you have now?
Right now, I have about 12 instructors.
Okay, great. Now, this is the part I was really excited about. There is so much potential for revenue, so many different revenue streams because there's so many different types of groups that you can present this business to. So, for example, assisted living and schools and different. So tell us about a lot of those different channels where somebody buys a franchise with you. Of course, you're going to help them to discover these, but just give the listeners an idea so to get them motivated to want to come buy a franchise with you.
Absolutely. So as you say, we work with senior citizens. We work with kids as well, and we say our range is from uh, 5 to 95, right? Or 105. The
Uh,
oldest person we painted with was 105 years old. And
That's
that was
cool.
their first time painting with us. Yeah, it was a great experience. And so we are able to go to people who cannot move. We work with people who are in medical conditions and living homes where they may have Alzheimer's or some kind of disability where they can't go out and they may want to be able to paint or they never painted before and they need a new experience. And so we want to bring that experience to them because they cannot go. Or, maybe you have a camp full of 400 kids and it's storming outside and you want something for them to do on the inside. We can bring that experience to them as well. Or if you just want to have a guys night and girls night, and you don't want to have everybody trying to figure out and how to link up and how to get to, a certain location. They know where you live. We just do it at your house. And so those are different opportunities that we want to present ourselves to anybody who wants to, have this franchise. And then the model is different than any other painting classes you've ever seen. So we like to give people that experience of having a 2-for-1 deal. You get motivation and you get the art at the same time.
Yeah, and then you have that finished product of whatever it is that you did in the class. That was the other thing I was very excited about because you and I had talked about how, it was about 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, you see all these studios popping up, these storefronts for people going groups of like 20 and they do something similar, but you've changed the game because you bring it to them, but you also do this worldwide on Zoom, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we make the canvas a faith exercise. All right. So some people don't know how to exercise their faith. So we use the canvas as a means to do that because your life is a canvas. Our motto is your life is a canvas painted with faith. And so they use the blank canvas as an opportunity to paint in their life the way they need to. Each color can represent something. Each brushstroke represents something. And we also say in our classes, there is no mistake in art, just room for opportunity. And so we're able to go to any location, but we're also able to virtually go to any location. So we mail our products out and then we get on a Zoom and then we'll do a class together. But the most important part of the Zoom class is making sure the personality is there. Because some people may be tired of Zoom, but we make sure we have a very infused interactive experience as people get on a Zoom with us as well.
That is so awesome. Because me, myself, like I said, I'm a amateur artist, if you will. I do a comic strip, in the newspaper I publish called Heartbeat Christian News. And, so I'm a very creative person, just like you are. And it's a gift of God, because I never went to art school and never had training. It was just an idea I had because we started Heartbeat Christian News and I thought every good newspaper needs a comic strip. And having loved Calvin and Hobbes so much, growing up, reading that in the Sunday paper. And so that's when I came up with the idea for the Adventures of Wesley Doodle, which Wesley is my son and Doodle is his stuffed dinosaur, neon green with orange claws and orange feet that he's had since he was about a year old. And it's a lot of fun. It's amazing how the Lord has blessed that. So another thing I love about your franchise is the fact that the cost point for someone to get started is much, much lower considerably than most other franchises in other sectors. So let's talk about the all-in investment and the franchise fee and the monthly royalty that folks can expect when they buy a franchise with you.
Absolutely. So the franchise fee is only $30,000. So you can get in for that price. And then there's other features that you may end up paying depending on what type of clientele you have, right? And then, if you're starting off slow, you can moderately go from 35 to spending maybe $45,000 to get your vehicle and getting all of your equipment. But you can go upwards to, 60,000 if you really have a clientele that's in a very dense area of population, a metropolitan area, and you can really get some traction going with that as well. The royalties is only 6%, and so you'll be able to get that as well. But it's a very low startup cost and a very high return because we try to make sure that it's a low cost situation with the materials, so you can make sure you have the high return with clientele.
Right. So let's take an average class of 20. Let's say you're going to the local YMCA and you got a
Mhm.
group of seniors. It's a class of 20. What are you going to charge each one of them for that class?
So for seniors, we charge $15 per senior. For kids, we charge $12 per kid. And then for private classes, we charge $35 per adult.
Right. And no one fusses about those prices at all, do they?
No, because we're bringing a whole experience to them. People say, that's all? That's what they say. They get so excited. That's all? So they love the price point. And that's with us going up. The prices used to be even lower, but with the market changing, we had to go up because paint costs more now, canvas costs more
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
And so we have a very moderate price, which is lines up with what the industry standard is. And we're way lower than what the industry is asking for.
Well, yeah, and I know for a fact, if I remember correctly, that price point is definitely considerably lower than like those storefront, studio type places. And the fact there's no alcohol involved, I think that is great. That was one thing I didn't like about those places. They tried to blend in the alcohol and stuff, and I felt that's really not a good fit at all. Um,
Exactly.
but you was talking about the cost of paint going up, and this is just a crazy side note. But like even the paint that auto body repair shops use, the automotive paint, that stuff's like $400 a gallon now. It's crazy.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and I know it's gone up a lot. But like if you have a entrepreneur, a franchisee who comes in and they're really a hustler, I mean, my gosh, they could do like 3 classes in a day, couldn't they?
Absolutely. So the peak season for this business is the summer. And we've done upwards to 7 to 10 classes a day during the summer. Seven
Wow,
to 10 classes a
that's
day. And
awesome.
you can the average class may be a $300 payout. That's the average. So you can do the numbers in your head, what you can make per day doing a class with the right clientele and with the right hustle. And so
Yeah.
we prepare ourselves for each season. And so the summer season, you could really, so I'll tell you this, Todd, just so people can get an idea of why I transitioned from being a teacher to doing Paint with Faith full time. I was a teacher, high school teacher. Obviously, I taught art. And in 2018, I took a leave of absence because I wanted to build Paint with Faith. And I'll tell you this story, which may inspire some people. In 2017, I took the day off to do a Paint with Faith. I got hired by 2 clients. Now, at the time, on my 2 weeks check was between $1,200 and $1,300. 2 weeks
For your
of
teaching
working as
job,
a teacher.
right?
Yeah, for my teaching job. $1,200 to $1,300 every 2 weeks. That's with me going to work from 7:30 a.m., getting off at 3 to 4 p.m. I was a wrestling coach, so sometimes I got home 5 or 6. My check was still $1,200. Whole day I'm working. This particular day, I was nervous. I took the day off. I said, I'm going to do these 2 painting classes it was Valentine's Day. I did one in the morning and then one in the afternoon. Todd, I got my 2 checks at the end of the day and it was $1,400 for a total work, 5-hour day work, right? And I looked at that and I said, something's not right. I said, there's no way that I've worked a total of 4 or 5 hours and I made my 2 weeks check. I told my wife, I said, now this is what has to happen. If I can figure out how to do this every day, then I won't need to work as a teacher.
Right,
And so what I did is I transitioned. I took 2018, I took a leave of absence as a teacher just in case my
right.
faith wasn't there yet. I took I took it off a leave of absence so they could keep my position. And I worked Paint with Faith for that whole year. And so I developed the system of how to get clients. I'm gonna tell you this too, Todd. The first 3 months I didn't make any money. I didn't because I didn't know what I was doing. But once I figured it out, I started getting checks in the mail. I got clientele, word of mouth picked up, and I didn't go back to teaching ever again.
That's awesome.
So,
And what year
so
was
that
that?
was the blessing. That was 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of just the pure business aspects of this. Number one, I mean, for a Christian entrepreneur, like you said, that we talked about, it's a hustler. I mean, the low startup cost. Now, one thing I did want to mention, Chevis, his car is wrapped with the paint with faith, and it looks amazing. It looks like a race car. And tell me again what the make and model is.
I have 4 vehicles in total.
But the
I
one
have
that's on your website.
the ones on the website is a Nissan
Yeah, it's a
Altima.
Nissan, but my God, it looks like a race car, man. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, the everything about your startup in a franchise, and I don't know why I mentioned this, but because somebody needs to hear it, is tax deductible. Your franchise fee, like he said, is 30,000. That's 100% tax deductible. You may have to amortize it over 10 to 15 years, but my certified public accountant, who is a very good friend of mine and a master accountant, she assured me it is 100% tax deductible. Everything you now make your home, as if you don't go out and get a storefront, or if you do or you don't, but you now make your home part of your home tax deductible because you have a real business that's operating, which you're operating from your home. Every single mile that you do business-wise is tax deductible. That's the simplest way to do it. But it's such a low startup cost. But because like Chevis was saying, I mean, you're talking around, $35,000 to $45,000. And by the way, if you need financing, Franchise Marketing Systems has lending partners that will help you to get the financing that you need in order to get started. So, and especially if you're a Christian entrepreneur, this is a fantastic way to witness to folks. Oh my God. I mean,
Hmm.
I bet you love that aspect of it.
Absolutely. Now, again, all my clients aren't Christian, but when I have opportunity to do a Christian group, a senior citizen group, a ladies group, or a youth group, you can really, really minister to people in a very powerful way about how faith canvas and different types of means. And you can be very creative if you're a creative Christian person of how to spread the message, spread the gospel. And then the best part is they get to take home that thing, look at it, and remember that experience of how they
Yes.
exercise their faith through that opportunity. And so, um, I love that piece about it, and I want people to understand that faith is for everybody. Everybody may not be a Christian, but they can get the opportunity to learn about God through this class.
Yeah. And so let me ask, this is a cool question. So have you ever encountered anybody in your classes who didn't know it, but discovered because of your class that they have that God-given gift for art?
Absolutely. So I've had some senior groups, some ladies would come and they were like, we had some contracts where we would go to those classes every single month. And so one lady wasn't an artist. She discovered that she loved art, and then she started creating her own things. And then she would bring it to the class and say, "Look what I did on my own time. I remember how you guys taught us how to do this. So I took this bag and I painted a painting again that you taught me on the bag." And so
Oh, that's
we
cool.
find a lot of I find a lot of senior citizens being revitalized and rejuvenated by doing the classes with us.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because some things are coming to my mind that but the listeners may not know, but as far as generating clients, but think about this. Family reunions, all right? Companies that want to do team building exercises. This is a phenomenal method for you to generate more business, especially if it's a Christian owned company. Churches. Oh my gosh. I mean, I could even see churches who would maybe want to take part in something like this. There's just so many opportunities, right?
Yes, we've done them all. Everything that you've named, we've done. We have a VBS coming up this weekend with some people. We've done family reunions. And the good thing about having a connection with the churches is that you can hit all the groups. You hit the youth group, you hit the men's group, you hit the ladies group, you hit the senior group. So just one church, you can have four different types of classes alone. And then you can have a congregational fellowship type painting class where the whole, church can come together and have intergenerational class. And these are just different opportunities of one congregation. And so the love and the compassion and the zeal that people have for the Lord, they can use it through exercising their faith through paint with faith classes.
That's cool. And what I love about it too is that something that we teach through Heartbeat Christian News is learning how to, because the only thing that moves God is faith. And that's something that we teach adamantly through Heartbeat Christian News. Really basically the whole New Testament is one of the strongest, teaching themes about it, is learning how to live by faith, be obedient to the faith. And one of the things that my pastor taught so many years is, okay, I'll pray for you, but what is your act of faith towards God to complete that connection and to move God? So, man, what a fantastic business model. When Chris had emailed me and introduced us, and he said, "Hey, Todd, can you get Chevis on the podcast? He's awesome, and I think it'll be great." Man, he wasn't joking for sure. So just to recap, Chevis, the franchise fee is $30,000. The
Correct.
monthly royalty is 6%. Tell us a little bit about some of your marketing strategies that you do to bring in new clients.
Well, definitely you want to make sure you're on Google. That's the easiest thing. So when people search, and some people will actually search paint with faith, even though they don't know anything about the company name. And I asked one of my clients, like, how did you find us? Oh, I just searched painting with faith and you came up. And I was like, wow, you actually searched that? Because
Yeah.
people want to be able to have Christian and clean, people that don't drink, they want to have a good, clean experience with us.
Right.
So Google is definitely one thing. We have ads through different social medias as well. But the number one thing, Todd, to be honest with you, is the word of mouth for us. That brings
Right.
in about 70, 80% because it's so unique of what we do. And then there's so few people that do what we do that once the word gets out from every class, if we have 10 people, 2 people will refer for us as well. And then those 2 people. So, and that's a minimum. Sometimes you get 5 referrals from one class, but just as a minimum, at least 2 people will refer us to the next group. And then sometimes people will take our cards and pass it along. And that's really, really how we've developed ourselves as a business. And then doing good business. That's very important. If you're doing good business, if you're making sure you take care of your clients, if you're taking a good approach to what you're doing and do it with some passion and love, they can see that and then they will call you again and again.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and plus the cost of, and I don't go to the movies, but I know that it's very expensive because I've talked to some people that do. In fact, I talked to one mother that she took so many kids to the movie theater, and she was like, it was like $80. I was like, God, $80. And I
Yeah.
thought, man, I mean, so, and like you said, the wholesome, clean entertainment, and the other great thing is, and I'm sure this helps you get referrals, is that finished product, that painting is going up somewhere in their house when they get home, and when their family comes over, their friends come over and said, oh, that's cool. Where'd you get that from? Oh, I did that. Well, where did you do it? Ba-bam. There you go. Yeah.
There you
Yeah. You got
go.
to, the Lord has blessed you richly, my friend. Um,
Absolutely.
so let's talk about how did you get connected with franchise marketing systems and what has been your experience with them so far?
It's a crazy, crazy story too, because I've been wanting a franchise for 4 years and I just never had the courage or the means to do it. I couldn't figure out how I can get the money to franchise. Even though we were making good money, I just was scared to take the huge risk of franchising and not really know what I'm doing and then pulling my energies away from doing Paint with Faith on a day-to-day basis. And so God said, now is the time. Stop being scared. Your company is called Paint with Faith for a reason. Exercise your faith. So I said, all right, Lord, I'm not going to argue with you. So I went to see a few franchise people, and I was actually at a networking event, and I talked to different people, and I said, I'm going to make this move. And one guy I was already communicating with, I called him. I said, hey, I'm ready to franchise, and talked to him on the phone. Went to his office, met with him, and I was ready to sign on the dotted line. But some things I just wasn't getting the right feeling because he wanted me to do half the work. And I said, I don't have time to try to sell franchises. I don't have time to do all the work. He said, we'll get you, to sell them, but you're going to have to do the legwork and building clients. And then I said, man, that's not really what I want to do. And it just so happened, I don't know if it was Chris that called me, but out of the blue, franchise marketing system called me. And I said, no, I already found the company. And it's like, wait, who did you find? And they, I told them who they were. They was like, well, listen, we're going to give you more and we're going to do a better job, but just have a meeting with us. And I said, well, I don't really want to go through the rigmarole again. He's like, just have a meeting with us and then we'll see. And after that meeting, called the other guy and I said, hey, we're not going to go in your direction. We're going to go with another group. And, here we are, franchise marketing system. This is the direction I want to be in.
Yeah, they are phenomenal. And just so you know, Franchise Marketing Systems was voted number one franchise consulting company in the country last year. I don't remember by which
Wow.
organization, but Franchise Marketing Systems is a very wholesome, honest, diligent company, and they do so much for you. So the one thing that they do, which every franchise creation company or attorney does, is create your franchise disclosure document. Well, that's a very detailed document that has to pass the laws in all 50 states, but they do so much more. They do your operations manual, your business plan. They help you create your franchise information website, which are all just really, really good. They help you file your federal trademark. They're very diligent in their communication in the creation. And I know because I've been through this firsthand. But then when they get it all done and you're ready to start selling and promoting your franchises, they help you to sell and promote your franchise franchises. And I mean, they've got a marketing team that can support you after this process is done if you need more materials. But there's not a question you can ask them. And Chevis, I know you can testify to this, that they have probably heard 100 times, but when you ask it again, it's like they heard it for the first time, isn't it?
Yep, they are very good, and I love working with the individuals I've been working with. I was nervous at first, not figuring out, trying to figure out, but everybody I talk to have been on point. They respond quick, and every question they answer right away via email, text, or they'll give me a call. I trying to book a call with Chris on his calendar lead. It was so full. I said, I can't wait 5 days to talk to him, and he ended up calling me right away. I said, oh my God, this is what a blessing.
Yeah, that's cool. And the other thing, one of the things they do is they create an 8-page sales brochure for you, which you can either use digitally or you can print it out, and send it. But like I said, and they know how to use their experience because they've helped well over 100 brands to create a franchise, but they know how to customize it because every business franchise model is different, even if it's the same sector like food or whatever. And yours is really unique. So I imagine that was a fun challenge for them for sure.
They definitely said they didn't have anything like me on their list, and they would love to work with me, and that made me excited and feel important.
Yeah, that's what Chris and I talked about when we first talked about franchising Heartbeat Christian News. He said, man, I love the concept. He said, there's nothing else out there like it. He said, it's a low price point, just like yours, Chevis, because our all-in investments are around the same as yours. And and the other thing I was going to say too is they break their fee up for you into 6 to 8 monthly installments, which as far as I know, I don't know of any other franchise creation companies that do that. And that is really, really an awesome thing. Cause like Chris said, he said, we are as vested in them as they are in us. And he said, I don't want to take all that business owner's money while we're in the process of creating the franchise because for obvious reasons. So, totally cool. So, Chevis, if somebody's interested in buying a franchise with Paint with Faith, and by the way, the website is paintwithfaith.com, right?
That's correct.
Right. And is there a franchise site up yet?
Yes, it's just as easy, paintwithfaithfranchise.com.
.com. Right. So I encourage you to check that out. If someone hears this podcast and they want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can dial 305-781-0991. Again, 305-781-0991. Or they can go directly to paintwithfaith.com. Or they can send us an email at info@paintwithfaith.com.
Yep. And you also have paintwithfaith@gmail.com, right?
That's also another one they can use, paintwithfaith@gmail.com. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and if you're calling or especially if you're emailing Chevis about a franchise opportunity, do include that in the subject line so he'll know there's a difference there than just the standard email communication from like normal business or whatever. But like he said, info@paintwithfaith.com. Well, Chevis, man, this has been such a huge blessing, man. What a very enjoyable podcast. Any closing remarks before we wrap it up?
Definitely just appreciate you having me on, Todd. Remember, your life as a canvas painted with faith. And we believe that you can achieve any goal, dream, or desire with motivation, guidance, and faith. We bring the motivation and guidance, but the faith is on you. And that's what we want everyone to have participation with when they do a class with us.
Absolutely. Now, listen, if you want to buy a franchise or you're interested in franchise with Paint with Faith, you also can reach out to me directly, Todd Abraham, 423-381-0925. If you are interested in creating a franchise out of your business and you would like more information from Franchise Marketing Systems, again, you can reach out to me, 423-381-0925. And as we close up here, wrap up this podcast, one of my definitely favorites of the near 40 that I've done so far, we want to thank Mr. Chevis Davis from paintwithfaith.com for bringing us this wonderful information. And you are tuning in to the Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast series on Franchise Radio. My name is Todd Abraham, and we thank you for tuning in.